I'm Joyce Creiger. This is ArtLink, conversations with art galleries, artists, art professionals, art consultants, art lovers, and art collectors. My guest today is Dana Salvo, owner of the Clark Gallery in Lincoln, Massachusetts. Dana is a Fulbright Scholar and has a Guggenheim Award. I'd like to welcome Dana Salvo. Thank you for being here, Dana. Dana, many galleries focus on a specific idea or theme for their gallery. They might collect or show expressionist art or abstract art or realist art. Is there a specific focus or reason for raison d'tre for the Clark Gallery?
The gallery is very exciting for us. What we exhibit is work of today. The work that we exhibit is a reflection of our time. Many galleries do specialize in historical materials or particular genres or different types of styles. We're a contemporary gallery. And contemporary is slightly different than fine art. A contemporary art gallery, although there's similarities between a contemporary art gallery and a fine art gallery, they are different in the sense that contemporary artists are certainly artists that work within a certain tradition, whether it be realism or abstraction or any number of genres. However, they're taking that tradition as a contemporary artist and using it in our time and bringing things to our time that didn't exist before. And they might be pushing that envelope a little bit differently than the tradition that they're borrowing from. So as far as the types of work that we show, it's across the board. It's work that's being done today. It's in all media, but it's by artists that are working right now. A lot of the work that we exhibit was made 3 weeks ago, or certainly it's very contemporary to now. That's our reason for existence.
You are a photographer and your partner is an artist. What made you decide to buy an art gallery?
The gallery was available. It had been there for a little over 25 years. It was a destination gallery with a good stable of artists. I've been an art junkie since I was a child. Looking at art, talking about art, thinking about art, writing about art has always been a focus for me in my work and how it informs my work. And I thought I had a lot of skills to bring to the job that would be helpful to promoting art to a greater community and pushing forward the agenda of artists making things.
Can you tell me, what do you look for when you're considering the possibility of taking on a new artist?
A dedication to their art, dedication to the craft. A work ethic that's very, very strong, and a very high quality of execution.
How important is a consistent body of work to a dealer?
It's very important. It's what it's all about. That's another thing. A good artist knows how to edit, and they know when they're on. And of course, artists, like anybody, create an enormous amount of work that some of it's just thought process, some of it's just things that they're trying to work out, and they know how to edit that out. And so a cohesive vision is always very, very important for me as the gallery to represent.
You currently have a salon show at the gallery. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the artists that are exhibiting there?
The Salon show is a great opportunity for the gallery to present a cross-section of the work that we represent. So for example, it's a good-sized gallery, and for this show there's 100 pieces by about 50 different artists. So 2 or 3 examples by each artist. And we're very selective about the pieces that we put in. We want them to be strong, very signature pieces. So it gives us that opportunity to present that to the public. It also gives us the opportunity for the artists to have things on the wall, because typically they might have to wait 2 to 2.5 years before they can have a solo show. So we can bump that along. But we can show everything from, David Palmer, who is an abstract painter. His paintings are single gestures. They're, his brush never leaves the canvas. They're 60 inches square. They're very big, often just in one color. We have something like that, where we also have somebody like Janet Rickus, who is a realist. However, there's similarities between their work in that the way that Janet paints her realism, her objects are all one-to-one. Her table when she paints is at eye level, so the work is very flat. There's an abstract quality to the work, although it's almost hyperrealism. There's an abstract quality to the work, and that can actually mimic what Palmer's doing in his abstractions.
I'm sure you get a lot of new collectors that come in the gallery. What advice would you give someone just starting out as to how to go about putting together a collection that they might want to do over the next 10 years?
Mm-hmm. Well, if it's a young collector, I would hope that journey that they're going to take would go on for maybe 50 or 60 years. But the collecting is a journey, and it's a wonderful life of exploration. It's getting in touch with yourself. It's searching for things that resonate with you, and to start a collection, you really have to just sort of fall in love with something. Artwork that you acquire over time, they become roommates. It's something that you engage with on a daily basis, so you're going to want to have to really love the work. That would probably be the first place to start. As far as forming the collection itself, it's not a bad thing to work with somebody that's informed, that knows a little bit about what's going on in the art world, can gauge the caliber of the work, and help them, and also introduce them to work that they might find compelling. And that's all about, getting to know the person, and making sure that they can see the things that would be meaningful to them.
If I was a new collector and I came to you and I said, Dana, I love this work. Can I see more pieces? You'd bring out more pieces. What if I wanted to actually go to the artist's studio? Is that something that you encourage?
Oh, sure. No, I encourage that all the time. So, artist studios are laboratories. In a gallery setting or at an exhibition, what you see is, say 12 pieces in a white box. Okay. Well, if you've ever been to an artist studio, they're worlds of wonder. You see things on their bulletin boards, you see things on the desk, you see things that they have tacked up, you see their resource material. It's an education. And so when a collector is really interested in artist's work, and maybe the piece there is not exactly the one that they're looking for, I really do encourage them to go to the studio and meet the artist and talk to them about their work. And and it also develops a wonderful relationship between both parties. Most artists really enjoy meeting the collectors that admire their work. It's a real perk, for someone to express their admiration for the work, to talk about what it means to them, and because artists really do, their ultimate goal is to touch people.
What do you do with a collector that walks in the gallery and says, I'm interested in buying something that's going to appreciate?
Well, that's an interesting question. There's several sides to that. As an investment, what I initially say is, well, it's not a good idea to buy art as an investment, because it's not, okay? And but on the other hand, if you're looking at art as a vehicle for investment, you want to be in contemporary. The most volatile aspect of any art market is the work that's being made today. You're in on the ground floor. If you hit it right, your rewards are going to be significant. That's true. It's a fact. There's no question about it. You can go out and buy, of course, a historical painting for a lot of money, but it's not going to, the value that it certainly will increase, but the sort of bang that you can get on that dollar is, relatively small. So, but do you want to buy as an investment? That shouldn't be the primary motivation. You want to buy because the work speaks to you in a very personal way, and keeping in the back of your mind that you're buying something that's made very well, you've investigated the artist a little bit, even if it's a young artist, what's the commitment level of that artist, and then you just sort of, go from there. But, you don't buy it for investment. However, having said that, contemporary art is the most volatile aspect of any art market. The rewards in that can be astronomical.
Just as an aside, the reason I asked you that is many years ago when I started my consulting business, the name of it was InvestArt. And I sent promotional material to Ivan Carp. He politely wrote me back a note saying, anyone who's going to call their company InvestArt, I don't want to deal with.
Yeah.
I promptly changed it to
Yeah.
my own personal
Yeah.
name.
Yeah.
But it was an interesting lesson for me. I was very young at the time, and I wrote him back and thanked him.
Well, not an interesting story about Carp is that at the same time, Ivan Carp is the only dealer, of course he's passed away, was the only dealer in New York that would look at work off the street.
Right.
Period. You could walk in and you could actually show him work, and he would look at it. Okay. Well, why did he do that? Okay. Well, if you've been to any of his talks or if you know him, he says very explicitly, "What am I, stupid? The building that I'm presently in that I own because I looked at the work of Johns and Rauschenberg that came in off the street. So I'm going to stop doing that. I'm not an idiot." So it's like, he says, as far as the other dealers in New York, which, whose noses are in the air.
No, he was a phenomenal guy.
Yeah.
How do you handle an artist that doesn't have an MFA and a BFA and all the credentials? They just are good at what they do, but they really are self-taught.
I handle a number of self-taught artists, but the first, I don't look at resumes initially when I get submissions. That's not really the resume comes much further down the line. It's always about looking at the work. I handle a number of very good self-taught artists. Janet Rickus, for example, who's probably one of the, I'd put her in the top 5 still life painters working today. She's self-taught. A lot of people come into the arts from they come into it from a different angle. They don't come into it from art school. It's more about the need to make something, or it's that beautiful necessity to create, and they do it very, very well. So the resumes come much, much later.
What are 2 things that an artist can do to connect successfully with the gallery?
The primary thing an artist can do to begin looking at galleries is to be informed. Okay, one of the best ways that I have found to be informed, because I use it myself as a resource material, is Art in America's annual guide. They put out in August every year. I actually have a copy. It's a very simple publication, Art in America. They list in that publication every contemporary gallery in the United States, and they list it by state, so everything's numbered. And within every gallery, they also indicate what artists they exhibit, who are also indexed in the back by number. They preview the exhibitions of museum shows for the year, so you know what's coming down the line. And they also have a complete listing of the major university galleries in the United States, which are a very, very important thing for artists to be aware of. It's an incredible resource. I use it every day. And it has all the information you could possibly want to know about the art world.
How instrumental has your website been to the growth of your gallery? And social media, for that matter.
Well, websites are, I try and keep the website very simple. There's not a lot of moving parts. It's very clean. There's not a lot of streaming material. You can hit the back button and go back to the page that you were just on. You're not kicked out of the system. I try to keep the website very, very clean and user-friendly. Today, you do a lot of correspondence by email, and of course they're going to go back to your website to see what you're talking about ultimately. So the websites are very important. Social media, there's several platforms now that are emerging that seem interesting. I don't know how much commerce will be generated by that, but it's something that we're investigating. We're listed with Artsy, for example, who screens galleries before they bring them in.
So it's a curated site.
Yeah. and which is important. So it's
What about
it's another-
Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn? Any of those helpful to you in driving
Well,
business to the gallery?
we participate in all of them. You know, we do all of Clock Gallery has a a Facebook page. We do the openings are listed as events. With Facebook, we publish our events, and the Facebook page does somewhat mimic our website in the sense that you can, when we list the exhibition, we also provide images of all the works in the show, which is also on the website. That you can also click on links that bring them to the artist page on our original website. So there's a certain mimicking thing that goes on between one and the other. Websites are important in the sense that people look at them from anywhere, and you do get calls, and it's also a way for people to see what's going on that can't get
Have
into
you
the
made
gallery.
sales actually that you can attribute to the having them see the image on the website?
Oh, certainly, sure.
Do you often collaborate with interior designers? They would come in and say, I'm doing a project and I need your help. How does that work?
We do work with interior designers quite regularly. We also work with architects, city planners, hospital curators, corporate curators. We work with a wide range of people. Interior decorators and designers are very similar. It's not that they're a curator necessarily. They'll oftentimes look for material that is suitable for their client, which is exactly what we do all the time anyway. If an interior designer comes in, she'll talk about the space, but she'll oftentimes talk more about the person and talk about some of the things that she knows about that person and what do you think would be suitable to put into that environment. It's not about matching them with drapes or anything like that. Very, very rarely is it that sort of situation.
Of the pieces that you sell in a month or 6 months, how many of those would you say are custom commissioned pieces?
Commission work is an integral part of the gallery. We just recently did a project with Nordstrom, and they loved painter Jesse Morgan's work. However, they wanted a piece that was 24 feet long. Okay. Jesse's never done a 24-foot painting before, which was great because she got to make a 24-foot painting. It's unbelievable. Okay. However, if she'd had a 24-foot painting, they probably wouldn't have commissioned one. So it's a very important aspect. Another artist, Paul Bowen, who does very large sculptures, beautiful things. He was, someone wanted it for a specific space, and it was huge, but he didn't have anything that was existing. But they trusted his vision. They knew his body of work, and they trusted him to do anything that he wanted. And of course, it was in the spirit of the work that he's created in the past.
How instrumental are you in guiding that process?
Well, I encourage it all the time. James Aponovich just did a beautiful
He's one of my
commission.
favorites,
Yeah.
by the way.
He just did a beautiful commission for a couple in New Hampshire, and he does, and I try and do commissions with him a lot, because typically, artists, they work in a certain size, primarily for economic reasons, to engage in a significant work that's very large or, big, or requires a lot of material, requires a lot of their time, and that sometimes it's risky for an artist to commit, a couple of months to one piece that might ultimately just sit in their studio. So it's always wonderful for them to have that opportunity to. The money's up front. It's always very, very good, and it allows them to experiment. It broadens their work. It opens up new worlds to them. It's always great. And sometimes a collector might want a particular piece that's no longer available, and we can make that happen for them. Might not be the same, just something in that spirit, and everybody's happy.
Do you also show video work or installation work in the gallery?
We show work in all media.
Who are some of the video artists, for example?
I'll give that one some thought for a minute. We recently had a wonderful video installation by Wendy Jean Hyde. She's a museum school grad. She received a 5th-year fellowship, and she had done a a loop of a polar bear in captivity, and it was multi-channel with sound. It was beautiful, but it was this very, very meditative, very wonderful quality of this polar bear that just, it had, you know, within its area of captivity, it was always in the water, but it always made this remarkable loop, but it was always the same.
I would imagine that one of the difficulties you might have running a gallery is sort of programming and making sure that everyone has an opportunity within a given period of time to show their work. What seem to be the challenges there, and what shows might be coming up that you might like to draw attention to?
No, programming's the key. You know, we mount exhibitions every month. It's a 4-week endeavor. It's an enormous amount of work. You know, you have to prepare the space and have the work come in. You have to unwrap it, hang it on the wall, then take it down and have the next work come in. And you have to have, it has to be succinct from one month to the next. And within any given month, typically we do 2 solo shows on either end of our space. There has to be, the work has to resonate with one another, and there has to be, sometimes you can take opportunities to have a more established artist with a more of an emerging artist. For example, I recently showed Janet Rickus and Holly Farrell in the same month. Janet Rickus has been around for a long time. She's a self-taught painter. Her price point is high, and it's beautiful work. Holly Farrell is more of an emerging artist. Her price point is a little bit lower, but their work is in many ways similar.
Complement each other.
They complement one another, and it also helps with collectors. You know, collectors oftentimes want to know, why is this artist at this price point, or why is she so expensive? And it gives me the opportunity to say, well, yes, Janet's paintings are $35,000, and Holly's Farrell's paintings are $3,000. However, Janet's paintings were $3,000 not that long ago. Okay, so it's question. You know, it allows you to talk about the market. It allows you to talk about, you know, when artists are committed to things. You know, there's no guarantees. However, you know, these things do happen. Okay, so and it also helps Holly because people can see that this is an artist that has incredible talent, has a vision. It's very clear that it has a vision, and then they go to the other side of the space and they see that this artist also has a very strong vision and is very talented and gifted, and there's similarities, but the price points.
What is the worst thing a young artist can do to hurt their career?
I recently did an invitational show. It was a glass show, contemporary glass, and it was a wonderful show, and then I combined a lot of, you know, well-known glass artists, you know, people that run the department at RISD, people that run the department at Mass Art, people that run departments out in Seattle. You know, they're established artists, okay? But I also wanted it to be an eclectic show, so I spoke to some of these people and asked them to recommend some of their students, or that were just recently out of school. And I reviewed a lot of work and made some selections. And I sent out an email to the artists with 4 lines: title, date, medium, price. 4 lines. Title, question mark. Okay, 4 lines. You know, how difficult is that going to be to get a reply? With the younger artists, it took me sometimes 4 emails or more to get the answers to the 4 questions. And sometimes they, in a couple of instances, the younger artists didn't want to sell the price. The piece wasn't for sale. In those particular instances where the piece wasn't for sale, you know, I told them, well, you better get your ass over here and get the work out of here. Okay, so it's, and they didn't understand that.
So not having something for sale clearly is a detriment to them. What about where they show before they approach you? Does that often jade your opinion on whether or not you want to handle their work?
No. Again, people are always suggest that, you know, where you show and who you show with is so important. Okay. Again, resumes come into the equation way down the line, and then, you know, I always refer to Louise Nevelson. Okay, Louise Nevelson, her studio. If a public library somewhere in mid-Ohio wanted a piece and they sent her a letter and asked for it, she sent it. If a school wanted a piece of hers on their premises to show somebody and they sent a letter to her studio, she sent it. Her policy was, if someone wants to see my work, it's going to get there. Okay, so I take the premise that, you know, anytime you have an exhibition, anytime you have an opportunity to have your work in a setting where people are going to be able to engage with it, it's a win-win. It helps the community. Anytime.
So Banksky's okay with you?
Oh yes. Anytime you can get art into a community where the community is engaging with it, and that's across spectrum, it's a win-win for everybody. Art is a very powerful force. It's an agent for change. It has an emotional resonance that people don't get in their ordinary lives from a day-to-day thing. Art changed my life as a child. It got to me early, and I am so grateful for that. It changed my life, so it's...
I understand
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Would you please finish this sentence? Art is.
A beautiful necessity.
With that, I think unless there's something more specific you'd like to discuss, we can conclude our interview, and I thank you for sharing all that you did. I think it will be very helpful to the viewers. My pleasure.
Thanks for having me on, Joyce.